Irshad. He's the PS coordinator.
Okay.
So, should we begin?
Sir, please unmute yourself.
Sir, I was saying that if you can give me 2 more minutes, I will pass on the message to the student groups once again, and then we can start. 2 more minutes. Shall I proceed, sir?
Yes, please. Nishan will wait for 2 more minutes, please.
No worries.
Yes, sir. We can start.
Rohit? Rohit, we are good to go. We can start.
All right, excellent. So first of all, thanks for everybody to join this interview session. This is one of the most popular activities that Magic does. And I really appreciate the support we got from PES College of Engineering. I have a very special connection with PES College of Engineering because I am a former student. So I am an alumni of this organization, and there is a lot that I have got from this place. Many long-term connections that I have established with the faculty, with the management, and all the classmates that studied with me. So really happy to have this session with PES College of Engineering, and on behalf of both the teams, PES and Magic, I welcome you all. I would not spend too much time talking about Magic because today's session is more about Nishant. So like you all know, Magic is a very active incubator and accelerator, primarily active in the Marathwada region and supporting startups from across India. Uh, the PS point of contact will also talk more about PS, but what I can tell you from the discussions I have had with the principal, Dr. Wadekar, is that they are in the forefront of driving innovation. They have been doing some very deep specific work in the area of cybersecurity, and there is a lot that we feel we can do together. So looking forward to working with all of you. I'll hand over to Mr. Irshad Wahid to talk a bit about PES, and then introduce Nishant Agarwal and get to the action that everyone is here for. Irshad sir, I think you're on mute.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Audi, sir. I'll start with a brief introduction about PES College of Engineering. PES College of Engineering was established in the year 1994 and it has come a long way in its scholastic journey. The institute is nestled in a sprawling green campus and surrounded by historical architectures and natural features. The college offers degrees in BTech and MTech in engineering, and it has five prestigious branches for BTech: CSE, Computer Science, Electrical, Electronics, Mechanical, and Civil. We also offer three specializations in MTech: Electrical Power Systems, Civil Engineering, and Computer Science Engineering. PS College has upheld standards of imparting technical education by churning out successful entrepreneurs, technocrats, and startup owners. The alumni of PS is spread the world over, from Amritsar to America. From its first batch, way back in 1994 till the present day, the college has been an excellent center of learning and teaching to students from all walks of life. Led by the visionary and dynamic principal, Dr. Abhijit Wadekar, the college has entrenched enviable benchmarks and landmarks in engineering education. Prior to the pandemic era, the college regularly hosted technical and traditional festivals, included in which are Parivartan, the annual socio-cultural gathering, and Tech Tricks, the annual technical symposium. The college made headlines around the globe for hosting the international event Indo-Euro Conclave in 2018. It was attended by delegates and representatives of many countries. The event was a melting pot of ideas and was the launchpad for a number of startups. MOUs, placements, training programs, community development, NSS activities, and a lot of others are some aspects which the Institute consistently works on. Accredited with NAC, PS is a sought after destination when it comes to technical education. It has an atmosphere of silent strength, which is fortified by the versatile and experienced faculty members, state of the art labs, and facilities. That was the introduction of PS College of Engineering. I will now commence with the introduction of our keynote speaker, Mr. Nitish Agarwal. Sorry, Mr. Nishant Agarwal. Mr. Nishant Agarwal has experience in the domain of biomedical engineering. He concluded his MS with specialization in manufacturing sciences at the IIT Kanpur in the year 2018. He has been associated with ASME Engineering for Change since 2019, where his research was in health sector solutions focusing on engineering for global development. He founded Life and Limb in the year 2020 to develop cost-effective myoelectric upper limb prostheses as an extension to his MS thesis work, considering the socio-economic sphere of the amputees in the low-resource settings. Presently, he is working contentedly as the CEO at Life and Limb. Mr. Nishant has been titled as the grand winner at Magic's Atmanirbhar Bharat Innovation Challenge 2021. On behalf of PS College of Engineering, I welcome you, sir, and thank you for giving us this opportunity to listen to you.
Thank you so much. It was wonderful to be on the Magic platform and get to know PES College of Engineering.
Excellent. So I think we should hand it over to Nishant to talk a bit more about himself, where he comes from, a basic background just for everyone to know you well.
Yes. Thank you so much, Rohit. It was, I was saying, a wonderful journey with Magic. We started with the Atmanirbhar Innovation Challenge, I guess, around 3-4 months back. And I'm very much excited to be back on the platform and see you again. So I come from Ghaziabad near Delhi, and I did my master's from IIT Kanpur with a specialization in manufacturing sciences, focusing on biomedical devices. So Life and Limb is a part of it is a part of the project that was my MS thesis. It was on prosthetic hand. We were making that hand in the lab, biomedical research lab of IIT Kanpur, and that's how it eventually converted into a startup in 2020. And talking about my expertise, I guess I was also connected to Maharashtra in general, because after my 2018 graduation, I did a job in Bajaj Auto Pune, where I lived for around 6 months or so when I decided to go back to the biomedical devices.
Super. So, so with the kind of background you have, what was your motivation to kind of get in the first place into the startup world of doing something of your own? Because I think you have a stellar academic background, and generally people with stellar academic backgrounds are focused on packages and jobs. So, two questions. So, first, why get into the entrepreneurship mode? And second is the field that you chose, which is the prosthetics field. To be very honest with you, I have been very active in this space. And before I met you, I knew of nobody who was doing any innovation on this front. Okay, so once or twice in a year when we see some government ad, that is when I used to know कि prosthetics क्या होता है, या in some movies वगैरह. So how did this whole thing happen with you?
Yes, thank you for this question. I guess I'll start with the first part where I got inspiration from to start Life and Limb. As I was saying, I was working with Bajaj Auto Pune and in the 2018, and that's how I figured out that I don't want to work for the rest of my career in automobile sector, because it is not something which I really wanted to do during part of my studies. And after 6 months of doing that job, I left the job and explored different alternative careers where I was into design, furniture, and even I joined project as a project engineer back to my lab, where I started working on the prosthetic leg. So all these things were going on, and in the year 2020, I decided while I was reading an article on Life and Limb. So this phrase "life and limb" is actually means that putting everything in what you believe in. So it stuck me, and even when I was thinking about PhD options as well, I was not worried about all these things, and I simply thought of giving it a go. That why not continue my MS thesis work and complete it into a product, and that's how Life and Limb was born. Secondly, as we were talking about the career options, I did get a very handsome package at Bajaj, and it was very much difficult for me to leave that job because it was peaceful. We had a lovely campus, we had the stay, we were getting monthly salary on time. Everything was perfect, but it is the risk of making something new and thinking beyond that package that motivated me to start Life and Limb.
Got it. That is very interesting. And there are a couple of things you touched upon, and that make me even more curious. So when you talk about prosthetics, and because we have a very diverse crowd today, and even I am very less educated about this, can you spend like 30 seconds to talk about what prosthetics is all about? So what are prosthetics?
Yeah. So a lot of people confuse between prosthetic and orthotic devices. When a patient, I'll give you two examples. And for the young students joining from the college, orthotics is a device which is given to the patient who has not lost his limb or arm. And prosthetic is a device for the people who have lost their arm from either below the elbow or above the elbow. So this is a major difference between prosthetic and orthotic devices. Orthotics are for assistive nature, and prosthetics are to fulfill the need of the locomotor disability. When we talk about prosthetic devices in India, a lot of people are not aware of the availability in the market. There are a few articles around, and some of the companies as well, who are making these devices, but they are not approachable, and secondly, they are not affordable to many. Most often we see these as a part of research projects in some of the institutes, but not in the market. People are slowly starting to address this problem because a lot of innovations are going on, and the government of India as well as is promoting startups in assistive technology as well.
Got it. Interesting. So it's a new field. Okay, it's not like developing an app or developing a website, right? It's a completely new thing. And in fact, I guess the reason why you are the winner of the challenge is because you did something very unique. It was very novel. And my hypothesis is that you couldn't have done it alone. Yes. So you have your limited gray matter, and you know there are some more areas that need to be researched. You may have needed some technical help, somebody to do things that you have no clue about. So how did you bridge those gaps? So I don't know if subject matter expertise was a gap. If that too was a gap, how did you bridge all the gaps that you eventually identified to put together the limb factory in the market as a successful enterprise delivering working products?
Exactly. Great that you asked this question because as an engineer, we cannot fit a prosthetic arm to a patient. We need clinical clinicians and doctors to do that, who are called prosthetists or PNO or PMR experts. So I was alone when I started this journey, and you are very much right that I had limited understanding of the domain. But when I connected to the SIC Incubation Center at IIT Kanpur, the wonderful thing is they have a lot of connect over the entire range of mentors and advisors with them. So we got connected to the clinical expert or consultant who is still working with us from AIPMR Mumbai, and also a business mentor, Mr. Sanjeev Verma, who is a ex-MD and CEO of Baxter India. So all these people, I guess, three things that were essential for us to lead was one on the technical side because we had access to all the labs and facilities. We are using state-of-the-art 3D printers, which are not even affordable to us as of now, but they are available to us through the incubation center. Second is on the business side, we have a lot of mentoring support and consultations as well as on funding support. And third is on the clinical side, because when we talk to the user about the terminology and the experience, either even to record their experience and feedback on having how the prosthetic hand should be, we need a doctor in the team. So all this combination actually gave us a boost to continue this journey, and this is where we are today.
Wonderful. So what is your team composition right now?
So we are a team of 11 in a micro lab setup at IIT Kanpur and in Delhi. We have two workplaces to make the product, and we are at the clinical validation stage. So with this team size, we want to make the product first, then go for the clinical validation, and then expand.
Were there any specific considerations in your mind apart from the teams or the individuals' technical skills before you kind of inducted them as part of the limb factory?
Yes, because this is something really difficult for an innovator or founder to hire someone who with the correct skill set. So I can give you an example where I guess my team has interviewed around 250 plus candidates for the skill set that is very commonly seen in the CVs of most of the students, CAD designing or industrial designing. So a lot of people say that they know CAD or the 3D printing or any other skill sets, but they actually haven't done any experiment or project on that, and they haven't validated their skill set with the industry standards. So when we are moving from lab to market, we need a lot of expertise on having the product fit to the tolerances, use the standardized components. It is not no more a project, but a product that has to be given to the user. And when we tried to find those skill sets in the aspiring innovators who want to join us, it was missing. So what we did is we made a roadmap for a journey of an intern or a new joining joining the Life and Limb. So it starts with a probation period of 3 months where we experiment with him whether his skill set is compatible with the company or not. And also he has the freedom to leave the company if he's not liking the workplace or the founder or the co-team members. So this structure kind of gave us a filtration system where we were able to find the right candidate for the company. And that's how I guess our electrical team is very much in place because of this process.
Great. Can you share the top 3 challenges you faced to get from where you first ideated with the concept of putting together this venture and where you are today, and how you tackled those challenges?
Yes, I can certainly think of funding is one of the major hurdle of ours, because all the people say that the product is good, you'll get the funding, but that is not the case. We apply to a number of funding agencies, government grants, and then one of them would click. And so we struggled a lot, and there was a period between, I guess, first quarter of this year, when we were left with no funds. And what we did is we dedicated this job to one of the core team members as a rectification of this. So he's responsible for all the funding management so that we are never run out of money. Second challenge is on hiring the right set of team members. As I already mentioned, it is very difficult. We conducted a lot of interviews and invested a lot of time in experimenting with the candidates. And coming with the roadmap is one of the solutions that we thought is very beneficial for a young startup, or like, because we have limited funding, we cannot hire a lot of people who and experiment. And when investment and stakeholders are involved, a lot of pressure is there from outside to develop the product, to get into the market, have the clinical validation, meet the milestones, and everything. And the third thing is on getting the design ready. So our prosthetic hand has a lot of modalities and focus, which ranges from single actuator design, having our own EMG sensors or muscle sensors, then going forward with the compliant joints, which are made using plastic, and convincing the stakeholders that 3D printing is a solution, because most of the people who are investors, they don't believe in 3D printing. They cannot see the vision of 3D printing being used in the product, and they consider it as a tool for prototyping. So all these things made us do some experiments, do some prototyping, and show it to them. That's how we tackled the third challenge of getting the investors on this.
Great, great. From the standpoint of identifying your market and taking the product to the market, were there any challenges for people to kind of accept that something like this can actually exist?
Yes, so as I was mentioning, that 3D printing is quite popular as well as not popular amongst investors. So when we were pitching, I remember an incident where when I was pitching to one of the investors from Government of India, they were a funding agency. And when I told them that the final product would be 3D printed using FDM and SLA techniques, so they were not convinced, and they didn't give us the grant. So that was the hurdle for us to convince the stakeholders whether the technology in focus is actually feasible or not. And to question ourselves, we did a lot of prototyping and design iterations. We made samples so that we can show it to the investors in the meeting room that this is the compliant mechanism, this is the motor, this is the size of the motor that we'll be using. And all these things, visual prototyping and showcase, gave us a lot of opportunity and convincing skills. So that hurdle was tackled.
Got it. And everybody on the call, if you have any questions or requests, you can put it on the chat box. So there is one interesting question that came, and I think we can address it in good time before we close the call, that whether you can show some samples of your product. So we should definitely do it before we close this meeting.
Sure.
You can do it whenever you want. Excellent. So now what I see is that you came into the market. Now there is an acceptance. You have built something novel, and possibly you have had some early adopters as well who might have taken the product or experimented with it. And this is serious stuff. It's not like buying an iPod. You are buying an extension of your body, right? Mm-hmm. So from such successful I would say implementations or use cases. Can you recall like couple of ones that really touched you, that you know what, money is one thing and your product is very cost effective, which I know, but the difference you made to whoever is utilizing that product, can you like talk about couple of such experiences?
Sure. I can certainly remember one of the meetings with one of the patients at a rehabilitation center in Delhi, where he was around 55 years of old and he lost his arm while working at a factory. So when I was talking to him, we were doing a survey where we were talking to the patients about how the prosthetic hand outer look should be. And when I showed him the sample that, okay, this is the robotic hand you'll be getting, or bionic hand you'll be getting, would you like to have it? So he was already wearing a conventional prosthesis, which is body harness based. And he eventually stood up and saw that laptop window. And he, in the excitement, he asked me to share the picture of that to his mobile. So that was one of the touching moments because we were very much uncertain about whether the funky colors of the 3D printed parts would attract older generations or not. And seeing this reaction from a 55-year-old gentleman who was working as one of the, I guess, factory workers at nearby Delhi, he gave us a lot of confidence in moving forward with the design approach that we have. Otherwise, what general perception of the patient is, the hand should be mimicking. But as the saying goes, no one knows what they want unless we show it to them. So when I showed them that this is the prosthetic hand that we are making, would you like to have it? And his acceptance was is actually a relief for us, because this is an experiment that we are trying to do.
Wow. And I think this is an opportune moment to kind of have a look if you have it handy with you.
So I don't have the complete hand with me, but I can show you some of the parts which have compliant mechanisms. So if you see, this is a finger that is being made using single plastic material. It has no pin joints, no nuts and screws. What it does is it actuates through single force. So this is the compliant mechanism. It cannot break and it cannot fall. It cannot fall and break, and it is water resistant. It has adaptive grasp mechanism. It can hold weight up to 5 kg. And so this is in the development. This is the earlier version of the prototype. And since I'm not allowed to show the recent version because of the IPR sensitivity, but yes, this is something that we are experimenting with.
Got it. Any picture you think you can put on the screen if possible? Else, it's fine. I mean, we did talk about it, so if it's not possible, that's fine.
Definitely. I just give me 2 more months. I'll be able to get the regulatory approvals and have the manufacturing license by December, most probably. So I'll be updating all the slides and reaching out to Magic for a boost up so that we can have all the pictures and designs in place.
Got it. But if we visit your website, whatever exists is something anybody can have a look at, right?
Yes. So the pictures or the design of the hand, which is shown on the website, is actually my project back in 2018. So since 2018, we are working on different modalities of the product, and we are filing multiple patents and protecting the rights so that we can able to market the product properly. Otherwise, all the things which are being fabricated or designed in-house are kept confidential from everyone who is outside the company.
Got it. Got it.
But I would love to reach out to you again and show you the final design.
Sure, absolutely. So from 2018 till 2021, we see how things have panned out. Now, so what do we expect from Nishant in the next 3 to 5 years?
3 to 5 years is a very long period of time, but I can definitely talk about some of the milestones that we have over the next 2 years. We are at the prototype validation stage. We are going for clinical validation where we get the regulatory approvals of IEC and ISO certifications. Then by, I guess, in 3 to 4 months of time, we'll be able to get the manufacturing license to go forward with the pilot project. So by mid-year next year, we will be able to have the pilot unit and complete the validation. After that, my team is also planning to expand to foreign markets. So we have 3 different variations of the product where premium segments are also there. So since we are targeting the low resource settings here in India, the basic model would have all the functionalities that is required to it to be robust and survive in the environment that we want to use the hand for. But for the premium model, we will be reaching out to foreign countries and markets. So for the next 2 years, I and team have decided this is the plan.
Excellent. So good luck for that. And because the majority of today's audience is from educational institutions, a typical question that everybody is asking these days is whether your education plays any role in what you do as an entrepreneur. So what has been the scenario with you?
I guess answer to this question is yes and no. Yes, in the sense, I got a lot of opportunity from IIT Kanpur itself and the incubation center to start and have the facilities in place. But in the end, it is the innovator's mindset that keep him or her moving. It's a no, because people get confused on whether their college should be famous or not, or it should be IITs or NITs or not. But I have seen a lot of people coming from, I did my bachelor's from a private engineering college of UPTU. And I know a lot of people from my batch who have come and gone to make startups and join IAS and do incredible things. So having that perception of college plays a role is actually based on you. If you can leverage the facilities and the technology available to your disposal, then it is definitely a yes. And if you are looking forward to having the name fame, then it is a no.
Got it. So from a skills perspective, or like you said, the mindset perspective, to the extent you have experienced, wherever you have studied in the past for your undergrad or for your masters, how well do you think the academic institutions are doing?
I guess a lot of promotion has been in place for the young startups or innovators, even in the ideation phase. I know that at SIIC there are 100 plus startups or the companies incubated. They are working on different segments and different zones, agriculture, healthcare, construction, food, etc. And I'm sure Magic is also building a large portfolio of companies of itself. So these kind of incubators and accelerators are being collaborating with the academic institutes as well. A lot of innovators are coming from their final year of study, and what they don't do is so I can talk about an excellent program of IIT Kanpur where they have a policy where the final year student can defer the placement and go for a startup. So these kind of schemes and promotions, they encourage a lot of students to actually believe in their project or idea, which was in their hostel room, and convert it into a full-fledged product.
That's a great idea, actually. I mean,
Yeah, so
something coming from the institution itself can make a lot of difference. So, so we have a fair idea of what academic institutions probably can do to accelerate this process. For students who are thinking of doing something of their own, some of them may have a great academic and financial background. Some of them may not. They may be from humble backgrounds. Some of them may be in like premium institutes, some of them maybe not. But in general, I guess a basic foundational formula should work for those who eventually want to become successful entrepreneurs or have a good shot at that. So what would be your advice to such students and budding entrepreneurs?
I can think of two, three things. So since I can call myself a young innovator as well. So a young innovator to a young innovator, I would say first thing is we have time. A lot of people think that we are running out of time. People of their batch or students who were their batchmates in school or college, they are making really big. But that is not the case. If you give around 2, 3 years to yourself, whether it is arts, painting, dancing, any kind of hobby you like, or any kind of startup idea that you think of, then you should go for it. You have time. You can always restart your career after 3, 4 years, and no one is going to blame you or give you a pat on the back that, okay, you did great or you did wrong. Second is on money. I know a lot of older generation would don't agree with me that money is not everything. But yes, money is not everything, but money is important. I can give you an example. When I was getting a good amount of salary after my MS from IIT Kanpur, I was getting a lot of respect in during my dinner at home. People used my mother and father used to wait for me for the dinner. That is not the usual case. And when I left the job, I joined the startup ecosystem when I was not making any money. I see a lot of disrespect among the neighbors, not my family, but a scenario has been changed. Similar thing is with the startup as well. People don't like idea or the product or the amount of efforts you have put in. They always talk about numbers. When you go to investors, you go to funding agency, they talk about what is the revenue you are making. And if you're not making any revenue, you are not a good startup. So although money is not important, but not everything, but it is really important. So you should always have a secure plan. I would say not a secure, but a backup plan for everything you do, whether it is your job or a startup. It is about balancing the risk and the opportunity. So you'll be having both at the same time in any of the situations you are dealing with. One last thing is on having the perfection. A lot of people see that every amount of effort is there. They are doing everything in the startup or any project of theirs, but they are not getting the result. It is about being organized and being perfect in whatever you are doing. So when I was in the MS, I dropped out of MS without I dropped out of Bajaj Pune without thinking a backup option. So contrary to my second statement, it was the risk that I took that I'll start Life and Limb and put Life and Limb into it. So uh, yeah, it can be a perfect statement from my side that put life and limb into everything.
That's a great point. I guess whatever we do, unless we go all the way, uh, it's anyways not going to work.
Yeah, definitely.
Super. So, Kshitish, do we have any questions? Irshad sir, if you have any questions collected from students or from the staff, we can open up the forum for like maybe 3 to 4 questions. I know somebody raised a hand, so if they want to go first, that's also fine.
Students, if anyone has any question, you can raise your hand or post it in the chat box. Meanwhile, I have a question, sir. Can I go ahead?
Yes, please.
Sir, what should be the way forward for a student from second year or third year or final year? Uh, what kind of resources or skill sets should an engineering student have? Because it is also about the right kind of motivation, the right kind of resources that a student can lay his or her hands on. Most of the students will never find the right kind of motivation until they are out of the campus.
Yes, I can totally relate to that. And if I remember my engineering days, back in 2014, I used to participate in a lot of extracurricular activities related to robotics. So, but that was my interest. So I'm saying what advice I can give to the young students who are in their second and third year is to go for projects that really interest you. That way you will be able to segregate what is interesting and what is not. So for example, I was into robotics. I participated in RoboWars, line following robots. All these things were very familiar to me. And when I graduated, mechanical engineering and masters in mechanical engineering was something which I really wanted to pursue. But that was a curated decision coming from my second and third year participation. So the project you choose will be very essential for you to explore what you like.
So the bottom line is the student should identify, a subject of his or her liking so that they can build upon it.
Definitely. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, sir.
So we have a question from Ayush that he also is a student of mechanical engineering and is interested in the same line of work. So what is the career opportunity?
So there is no fixed plan or path for this career, the startup career, although a lot of schemes and promotions have been there from Government of India or educational institutes. But what I can tell you about is hardware is hard. A lot of companies are making revenue out of softwares and IT or solutions in services. But when you talk about the product or hardware startups, it eventually comes down to the end user who will be getting the product, and it is dependent on the end user. And the amount of infrastructure and the funding required for having a hardware validation is very huge as compared to IT or software or services solution. So when you are willing to have a similar line of thought or action where you want to go for hardware startups like biomedical devices or machines, then you definitely should picture the amount of investment and infrastructure you will be requiring for making that possible. If you're clear about all those inputs and you are very much confident about the product that you intend to make, then definitely it's a go, because although having said that it is hard, but it is also rewarding in terms of the revenue share you get. So that is my advice.
Anybody else would like to ask any question?
Sir, I have one more question.
Yep.
One of the foundational skills that you said that one needs to have in robotics is 3D printing. So can you throw some light on that as to how to get to the basics of that subject?
Yes, so as I was mentioning before, that 3D printing is quite popular, but it is not popular amongst the investors. So what I meant is people are making products out of 3D printer which can be easily manufactured through die and casting. So they are quite cheaper than the 3D printing. 3D printer was introduced as a process or a technology for making complicated designs which cannot be die manufactured or casted. So people are not aware of this thing, and a lot of people do fancy stuff, make the things 3D printed, which can easily be manufactured by a large company in sense or passive. So the thing is, people should understand that 3D printing is a tool which we should leverage and making good use of it will actually enhance your design. So for example, if you want to make a hollow sphere, a ball kind of thing, you can easily 3D print it, but it would take a lot of effort in casting it or getting it manufactured at a factory. So these kind of problems are to be identified using a 3D printer. And when we talk about the technology, since I don't know if many of the students would be aware of, but 3D printer was patented, and its patent was expired around 3-4 years back. And that's how the 3D printers came into picture, and it has been open sourced, and a lot of companies here in India are also making it. But also at the same time, it is creating a lot of pollution in terms of seeing fake innovations in the 3D printers. So that is where the investors or the stakeholders are not interested in funding a project or an idea or a startup because it is 3D printed. But when you talk about high quality of products and complicated designs which can easily be made using 3D printer and of good quality, then I guess 3D printing is one of the best tools a manufacturing engineer or a mechanical engineer can have.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Sir, officer,
Rohit, please unmute yourself.
I'm so sorry, guys. So there is a question from Sumit. How you have coped up with your failures? I think a bit of it you touched upon, but we have not heard about any significant, serious failure or a disaster from your trials. So if you
Yeah.
can, if there is anyone you can talk about it and how you coped up with that.
So in a single statement, I can say that I lived on my savings for whole complete year, and I was not getting any salary for 1 year. And being a 28 or 29 years of age, your parents, your family, your peers expect you to earn some good amount of money at this age. And we are not doing that. It's kind of a failure in terms of personal life, but it's also rewarding when you see the future of the company or the startup or the idea you are seeking. Secondly, when you are running out of funds, it is not one day thing. So you'll be applying to a number of grants, awards, or investment agencies, and you'll strike at one, who or she will be available and interested in your product or idea. So, but it takes a lot of time. So I can remember one of the CSR funding that we got took around 1.5 years of waiting time. So we applied in 2019 and we got in March 2021 this year. So this is the time frame that we are talking about in startup ecosystem, and this is the risk and potential failure that we can see in this journey.
Got it. So we have Mr. Hunter who is asking what has been your biggest challenge. I think you spoke about it, but if you want to touch upon it again in case he was not around then.
Yeah, so challenges, one of the major challenge I can reiterate is on finding the right team or right set of mentors. So all these people will eventually be a part of your team or the company that you're making. As a founder, as an innovator, this is your idea, this is your startup. But to make it successful, you need more people to rely on. And when you have wrong set of core team members or wrong mentors, you seek validation from outside and not within the team. So I would say that the biggest advice to young innovators is not to seek validation from outsiders, but from your immediate batchmates or immediate friends or immediate core team. So once they are happy about the product that you are making or the process that you are following, then I guess success would be easy. Otherwise, a lot of fake mentoring and advices are there, and a lot of people want to call themselves mentors, but they might be good for others, but not for you. So seek your mentors based on the direct benefit that you can get and make a right core team.
That's a great point. And with the whole wave of startup and innovations at this time, like you said, a lot of people are now posing themselves as mentors, but how many can actually mentor and groom an idea full-fledgedly with a complete 360 view? That's not a very easy task. I mean, you cannot do a course and take a certificate and start mentoring.
Yes, yeah, there are courses or entrepreneurship as well. A master's degree you can get,
Correct.
but I don't know how useful it is.
Exactly. Excellent. So we have 6 minutes and we can give some time back to Nishant unless anyone has any questions. I would also request Irshad sir probably to give us a vote of thanks if there are no questions.
Sir, I have just one last question, Audi, sir. Shall I go?
Sure.
ahead?
Yes, please.
Sir, when it comes to robotics, it's an entire world out there. But then, there is still a lot of phobia or ignorance when it comes to this field, robotics. We see that, very few students, a select few students would opt for a robotic project. So I wanted to know what kind of content or resources or materials did you develop, to really clarify the concepts that you've developed. What kind of materials do you still go back to, which keeps your interest alive? If you can throw some light on this, we'll be highly grateful.
Yeah, so I guess robotics has been in the picture since a decade now, and a lot of innovations are going on in this field, starting from industrial applications where we see a lot of robots handling high risk jobs. Secondly, in personal or healthcare system where a lot of medical robots are being developed who are making the job of a practitioner easy. So at the same time, when we talk about robot, a second year student who is from computer science, he or she may not believe what a robot looks like. So when we talk about robot, we have a picture of a two-legged machine who will be walking and doing the task. But robotics is something which is anything a machine which can automate our task and make it easy. So as the Three Idiot movie was there, a zipper is also a robot when it is doing a task of joining two pair of fabric. So the applications are huge. And when we talk about the skill sets required and the phobia around robotics, AI and ML are the new two terms which are which are revolving around the robotics field. And artificial intelligence, machine learning are the concepts that are directly applicable to move to the next generation of robotics. When we talk about the control system of the robots, either they are driven by motors and actuators or they are controlled by the computer software. When we club both of them together, it is called AI and ML. And this is something one of the famous companies also trying to do at US, where they are making brain implants. So all these innovations, they tend to enhance the human-centric design, where we can control things more rapidly, more easily, and in an intuitive manner. So imagine avoiding hardware devices at all in total. For example, a mobile phone can be integrated into a human body, although it looks phobic in nature, but it would be the near future. So a lot of people are working on human-centric design, which would avoid this phobia of robotics taking over the human race. So I believe if the young students can study about human-centric design, engineering for global development, all these fields are very much related to surviving, showcasing the survival of robotics and the human race.
Right, sir. I now request, sir, shall we proceed with the vote of thanks?
Yes,
Yes,
unless
sure.
we can
Yeah.
just check out if somebody has a question, else
Yes.
we can hand it over to Kshitij or Irshad sir. No questions?
We can move forward to vote of thanks.
All right, over to you.
Okay, sir. I now invite Professor Abhijit Pandey from Electrical Engineering Department, PS College, to give away the vote of thanks. Over to you, Pandey, sir.
Okay, thank you, Irshad sir. Good afternoon to each and everyone. On behalf of PS Engineering College, I extend a really hearty vote of thanks to our guest, Mr. Nishit Agrawal sir, who spared a time from his busiest schedule. Today we had an opportunity to hear sir's thought and interact with sir. Thank you, sir. I also want to thank each and everyone who worked for today's event. And not but obvious list, I also want to thank my dear student who is listening to our speaker carefully. Thank you everyone. Thank you, Magic.
Excellent.
Thank you so
It was
much,
great.
everyone.
And Nishant, it is always wonderful to meet you. There are a couple of things that I would like to discuss with you as well. And I'm so glad that after Atmanirbhar Bharat challenge. I could hear you live. So superb. Thanks to everyone. Thanks PS College. Thanks students. And we'll keep connecting and we'll keep doing some good work. We are also going to figure to bring Nishant to Aurangabad. And when he is here, I'll make sure we have some time spent at the PS College as well, interacting with students.
That would be really great, sir. That would really be something we would all, eagerly look forward to.
I look forward to the event as well and interacting with you, Rohit, and find potential synergies with Magic Aurangabad.
Yeah. All right, guys. Thank you. Thanks, Nishant.
Great.
you.
Thanks
Thank
all.
Bye. Take care.
Bye bye.